Once upon a time, there was a man named Chaka Obifuna. He had everything money could buy: big cars, private jets, a house so big it looked like a hotel. His pillows were soft, his sheets were silk, and his staff bowed whenever they saw him. But inside his heart, it was cold. Every morning, he woke up in his giant bed and stared at the ceiling like it was a prison wall. He was 32 years old, tall, clean-shaven, and always dressed like he had a meeting with the president. But right now, Chaka was tired of suits. He was tired of fake smiles. Tired of all the women who only called him darling when they saw his car keys. They didn't know who he really was. And they didn't care. That morning, he sat alone in his fancy dining room, staring at his untouched breakfast. His chef had prepared golden pancakes, eggs shaped like flowers, and fresh juice squeezed from oranges flown in from another country. But Chaka didn't touch it. He just sat there, holding his phone, watching a video over and over again. His hand was shaking. In the video, his fiancée, Linda, was laughing with her friends. "Babe," he was stammering again, she said, mocking him. He said, "LL Linda, I LL love you. I almost died from holding my laugh." The girls around her screamed with laughter. One even fell off the chair. And Linda added, "If not for his billions, do you think I'll be here waiting for a stammering Romeo?" Chaka closed his eyes. He felt like the walls were closing in on him. That video wasn't a joke. That was the woman he was planning to marry. She wasn't laughing with him. She was laughing at him. The next thing he heard was the sound of his phone hitting the wall. He had thrown it hard. It broke into pieces. A maid came running in. "Sir, are you okay?" Chaka didn't answer. He stood up slowly and walked past her. He didn't say a word. Not even when his personal assistant, Tunde, met him at the staircase. "Sir, your flight to Dubai is in 2 hours. Should I get the car ready?" Chaka looked at him. "Cancel it." Tunde was confused. "But sir, the board meeting." "I said cancel it," Chaka repeated quietly, but firmly. Then he added, "And get me a disguise." Tunde blinked. "Sorry." Chaka turned around fully. "I want a disguise. Clothes, cap, cheap shoes. Everything. I want to disappear." Tunde stepped back, unsure if his boss was joking. "Disappear where, sir?" "I don't know," Chaka said. "But I want to breathe again." 2 days later, Chaka stood in front of his full-length mirror. But this time, he didn't wear an Italian suit. He was in a loose t-shirt, faded jeans, and a pair of slippers. His usually clean-cut beard was gone. His hair was trimmed low. He looked like a man who sold sachet water on the street. He looked at himself, then smiled. For the first time in years, he felt something real. He felt free. Tunde walked in carrying a plastic cooler. "Sir, this is the smallest one I could find. It should keep the ice cream frozen for hours. I've stocked it already." Chaka nodded. "Good." Tunde hesitated. "Sir, this plan, it doesn't make sense. You're a billionaire. You can fly to any country in the world. You can take a vacation, meet new people. Why do you want to pretend to be poor?" Chaka zipped the cooler shut and placed it on the floor gently. "Because I want to know if love exists when money is not in the picture. I want to meet someone who sees me, not my wallet." Tunde sighed. This could go very wrong. Chaka picked up a cheap nylon bag and slung it across his shoulder. All very right. By 6:45 a.m., the next day, Chaka was in Yaba Market. The place was alive. Loud voices, smells of spices and frying oil, meat hanging from iron hooks, bread stacked in crates, hawkers shouting prices, babies crying, and car horns blaring. Chaka pulled the small cart holding his cooler through a narrow path between stalls. He wiped his forehead. The sun hadn't even risen fully, but he was already sweating. A woman balancing a tray of vegetables bumped into him. "Oga, carry your load well now." "Sorry," Chaka mumbled. She hissed and walked off. He found a small empty space near a cement wall and parked his cooler there. It wasn't much, but it gave him a full view of the market. He sat on a short plastic stool and opened the cooler. He pulled out a spoon and placed the tiny sign that read, "Ice cream, 200 naira only." No one noticed him at first. Then a small boy came running. "Ogre, you get vanilla?" Cheka smiled. "Yes." He scooped out a ball and handed it to the boy, who ran off without paying. Cheka stood there, confused. A voice behind him said, "That one? He never pays anybody." Cheka turned. That was when he saw her for the first time. She stood with her hands on her hips, flour on her cheek, her face glowing with heat and anger. Her wrapper was tied tight around her waist. In front of her was a metal tray filled with meat pies, steaming and golden brown. Her voice was sharp, her eyes sharp, even sharper. "You be new here?" she asked. Cheka nodded slowly. "Yes." She scoffed. "Clearly." She looked him up and down like she was scanning him for secrets. "You even look lost. You don't know how to hold spoon, you don't know the boys that steal, and you put your money on top cooler like say them no-day thief here." Cheka quickly grabbed the few naira notes and stuffed them into his pocket. "Thanks," he said softly. The woman didn't smile. "Na, you go thank me when you still get your cooler tomorrow." She turned to leave. "What's your name?" Cheka asked. She paused. Then she said, "Uju," and walked away. Cheka watched her go, her tray balanced on her hip, her eyes scanning every customer, shouting prices like a pro. There was something about her. Strong, bold, real. He whispered her name to himself. Uju. Hours passed. Cheka barely sold 10 cups. His hands were shaking from scooping so much. He had blisters already. A group of kids gathered near his stall. He gave them samples. They laughed and called him Ice Cream Uncle. He smiled back. Then he saw Uju again, this time seated under a big umbrella. She was kneading dough, wiping sweat from her face. Her hands were rough, but her movements were graceful. People kept coming to buy from her, and she joked with them, even gave free pies to a pregnant woman. Cheka watched quietly. There was a light around her. The market noise didn't touch her. She was in her world. He wanted to be a part of it. By sunset, Cheka packed up. His feet hurt. His clothes were sticky. His arms were sore. But for some strange reason, he was smiling. He walked to a quiet street, where Tunde waited in a small car, dressed like a delivery driver. "How was it, sir?" Tunde asked. Cheka leaned back in the seat. "Exhausting. Hot. Confusing." Tunde nodded. "And?" Cheka smiled again. "Perfect." But just as they were about to drive off, Cheka looked in the rearview mirror and noticed something strange. Uju. She was standing by a corner, staring at him. Her tray was empty. Her wrapper was loose. Her eyes were full of questions. She had followed him. Cheka froze. Tunde whispered, "Sir, do we drive?" Cheka looked down. He didn't answer. Cheka didn't sleep that night. He kept thinking about Uju. Her sharp voice. Her steady hands. The way she stared at him from that corner like she had seen a ghost. Or maybe, like she had just solved a puzzle. She had followed him. That was clear. She saw something. Maybe the car. Maybe the way the driver opened the door for him. Maybe the way he looked too clean to be real. He sat on the edge of the hotel bed, still in his market clothes. His phone was off. His gold wristwatch was inside a drawer. He didn't want anything to remind him of his old life. But now, it was catching up with him. Tunde stood by the window. "She saw us, sir." Cheka didn't answer. Tunde stepped forward. "Should I change your location?" "No." "Should I talk to her?" Cheka shook his head. "No. I'll go back tomorrow. Same spot. Same clothes. No lies." Tunde looked worried. "She might expose you." "Then let her," Cheka said. "If she wants to shame me, let her. But I won't hide." The next morning, the market was louder than usual. Women argued over prices. Boys ran between stalls. Radios blasted music. Dust flew in the air like smoke. Uju was already there. Her table was full of fresh meat pies, neatly arranged in rows. Her apron was tied tightly. Her face was hard, her mouth straight like a locked door. Chaka arrived quietly and set up his cooler again beside the same wall. He didn't speak to her. She didn't look at him. But he knew she was watching. He felt her eyes on him like the sun. He scooped his first ice cream of the day for a little girl who came holding her mother's hand. He smiled at the girl, who giggled and licked the spoon. Uju scoffed. Cheka looked up. Morning. She didn't answer. He tried again. Your pies smell good today. Still, no reply. Finally, she said without looking at him, Where did you learn to scoop ice cream like you're feeding a baby? Cheka chuckled. I'm learning. You're not from here. I never said I was. You don't belong here. Maybe not. But I'm here. Uju glanced at him now, her eyes sharp. Why? Cheka shrugged. Peace. Uju laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh. More like a slap. Peace? In this market? Yes. She looked at him long and hard. Then went back to flipping pies. Cheka stayed quiet. A woman in a faded headscarf approached Uju's table. Uju, please. Let me owe you again. My daughter hasn't eaten. Uju sighed. Auntie Bisi, you still owe me for last week. I'll pay soon, I swear. Uju looked away for a second. Then she took 2 meat pies, wrapped them in newspaper, and handed them over. Don't forget again, Abeg. The woman thanked her and walked off fast, almost embarrassed. Cheka watched everything. You're kind. Uju rolled her eyes. Kindness doesn't pay rent. He smiled. But it feeds someone who's hungry. She looked at him. This time, softer. You talk like a man who reads books. I do. What kind? He paused. One's about pain, and people, and how to be better. She raised an eyebrow. Deep. I try. Uju shook her head. You're strange. Thank you. That wasn't a compliment. Cheka laughed. She didn't laugh back, but he saw the corner of her lips twitch. The sun was hot that day. Sweat poured down everyone's faces. A group of schoolboys gathered around Uju's table. Big sis Uju, give us the hot one. No, I want the round one. I saw it first. Uju waved a spoon. If you don't behave, I'll pour water on all of you. The boys laughed and settled down. Cheka smiled. She had a way with people. Like she knew everyone's story, but never used it against them. He stood up and walked over slowly. Need help? Uju looked up. Help with what? These boys look like they're about to climb your table. One boy shouted, We can climb it, oh. Uju threw a tissue at him. Try it and you'll meet my elbow. The boys laughed harder. Cheka laughed too. Then he bent down and started handing out pies. One by one, he helped serve them until they were all gone. Uju stared at him. You don't even know the prices. I wasn't collecting money. She stared harder. So you just gave out 5 pies for free. They were hungry. Uju slapped her forehead. This man wants to finish my business. Cheka pulled out money from his pocket. Here. She looked at the notes. That's too much. Keep the change. Uju blinked. Are you trying to buy me? No. I'm trying to say thank you for not chasing me away yesterday. Her mouth stayed shut for a long second. Then she said, You're weird. But helpful. Let me think about that. As the day grew darker, the market began to thin out. Uju sat on a stool, wiping her hands with a wet cloth. Cheka sat near her, eating the last spoon of his own ice cream. She looked at him again. You really don't look like someone who belongs here. Why do you say that? You don't walk like them. Your hands are too soft. You don't curse when someone steps on you. You don't shout when someone cheats you. And you're too polite. Cheka smiled. Those sound like good things. They are suspicious things. He nodded. Maybe I am suspicious. She folded her arms. So why are you here, Ice Cream Man? He thought for a while. Then he said, "Because I'm tired of people who lie with smiles. I want something real." Uju looked at him like she was reading a book with no cover. "Hem," she said finally. "Real doesn't hide in disguise." Cheka blinked. She added, "I saw the car yesterday. The tinted one." His face froze. "I saw the way the driver opened the door for you. The way you sat like a boss. So I'll ask again, who are you?" Cheka looked away. Just someone trying to escape noise. Uju picked up her bag. "Well, welcome to the noise." She walked off. Cheka didn't return to the hotel that night. He stayed in the back of the small rented kiosk Tunde had gotten for him. The floor was hard. There was no fan. Just a mat, one bulb, and silence. But even in the discomfort, he smiled. Because in that silence, Uju's words rang in his head again and again. Real doesn't hide in disguise. She was right. But he wasn't ready to show her yet. Not fully. Not until she saw him for who he really was, without the money. The next day, he brought a flask of hot water and shared it with Uju before she even asked. She looked at him like she wanted to argue but just poured some into her own kettle. She muttered, "You better not poison me." Cheka grinned. "Why would I poison you? You're the only person in this market who talks to me." Uju sighed. "That's not a good thing." But she didn't push the flask away. For days, they grew into a strange rhythm. Cheka would arrive early. He'd help Uju set her table. He'd carry water. He'd chase boys away from stealing pies. He'd give children free scoops. She'd call him useless. But she never told him to go. They talked about small things. Weather. The smell of burnt oil. People who argued over 50 naira. One afternoon, as they both sat watching a fight between two women over stall space, Uju asked him quietly, "So you live in that car?" Cheka blinked. "What?" "The one I saw you enter." He scratched his head. "Not really." "Then where?" "Liar." Cheka smiled. "Okay, maybe I used to live somewhere big. But not anymore." "Why?" "I got tired." Uju looked confused. "Of what?" "Of pretending to be happy." She went quiet. Then she said, "So you came here thinking this place will make you happy?" "I came here hoping I'd meet someone who wasn't pretending." Uju didn't speak for a while. Then she whispered, "You found the wrong market." Cheka leaned closer. "Maybe I found the right woman." She looked at him, stunned. "What did you say?" He smiled. "I said your meat pies are better than Mr. Big's." She threw a spoon at him. He caught it and laughed. That night, as the sky turned orange and the last customer walked away, Uju packed her things and looked at Cheka. "You know what's strange?" "What?" "You don't feel like a stranger anymore." Cheka stared at her. "Then maybe I'm finally home." She stared back. Long deep. Then she turned away fast. "Go and sleep, ice cream man." The next morning, Cheka arrived at the market earlier than usual. The air was still quiet. Only a few traders were setting up their stalls. He sat beside his cooler, watching the sun rise behind a line of rusted rooftops. For once, he wasn't thinking about his mansion. He wasn't thinking about Linda, or the board meetings he used to run. All he thought about was her. Uju. The way her eyes always scanned the market like she was guarding something. The way she rolled her dough with fire in her arms. The way she scolded everyone but still fed them when they were hungry. There was something about her that pulled him in. Something raw. Something real. He rubbed his palms together and waited. And then, there she was. Uju walked down the narrow path in her usual way. Fast, focused, fierce. Her tray balanced on her hip. Her scarf tied tight around her head. Her lips pressed into a straight line. She stopped when she saw him. "You again." Cheka stood. "Good morning." She glanced at his cooler. "You didn't quit." "No. You must like stress." "I like this spot." She raised one brow. "You mean you like me?" Cheka laughed softly. "Is it that obvious?" She walked past him and set her tray down. You have no shame. Maybe I lost it here. She didn't reply. Cheka stepped closer. Can I help you mix the dough today? Uju looked at him like he had just asked to fight a lion. You? With those soft, banker fingers? I'm stronger than I look. She narrowed her eyes. You'll mess it up. I'll try not to. She hesitated, then shrugged. Fine. But if you ruin one batch, I'll charge you. Cheka rolled up his sleeves. Fair deal. Minutes later, he stood beside her with his hands deep in flour. Too much water, she warned. He adjusted. Don't press that hard, she snapped. He lightened his touch. Stop smiling like it's a game. He wiped the grin off. But every time she looked away, he smiled again. She noticed. You're enjoying this too much. I like learning from you. Uju rolled her eyes. You're not my student. Then I must be your apprentice. She ignored him, but he saw the smile she was hiding. By midday, the heat had taken over the market. Everyone was sweating. Flies buzzed in corners. The smell of fish, dust, and engine smoke mixed in the air. Uju wiped her forehead with her apron. Give me the flask. Cheka handed it to her. She poured hot water into a small bowl and started mixing her pepper sauce. A young woman approached. She looked thin, tired, and held a crying baby. Auntie Uju, please. I don't have money, but can I get just one pie for the baby? Uju stared at the girl for a second. Where's the father? He ran, the girl whispered. Uju looked down at the baby, then back at the girl. Come. She wrapped 2 pies in paper and gave it to her. Eat something too. The girl's eyes filled with tears. God bless you. Uju waved her off. Go before I change my mind. As the girl walked away, Cheka said softly, You're always doing that. Doing what? Giving when you have little. Uju turned to him. Because I know what it's like to have nothing. Cheka didn't speak. Uju picked up the ladle. When my father died, I was 14. My mother sold a kara. We ate once a day, sometimes not at all. When she got sick, I had to drop out of school. She stirred the sauce quietly. I learned to bake from the woman next to our house. She used to call me stubborn. Said I rolled dough like I was fighting it. But she taught me everything. Cheka listened carefully. She died 2 years ago. Stroke. She left me her old oven. That's what I use now. Cheka looked at her hands. Rough. Burnt in places. Strong. I'm sorry, he said. Uju shrugged. Life doesn't wait for sorry. They stood in silence. Then Cheka said, You're amazing. Uju gave him a side eye. Don't flirt with me. I'm not. Good. Because I don't date strangers who sell ice cream with no past. He paused. What if I showed you who I am? Uju looked at him long and hard. Then you won't need to say anything. I'll see it. That evening, after most stalls had closed, Uju stayed back to clean. Cheka stayed with her. He picked up a broom. Let me help. She didn't stop him. As they swept side by side, she asked, Why don't you ever talk about your family? Cheka paused. Because they don't know I'm here. She stopped sweeping. You ran away. He nodded. Something like that. Why? Because I was tired of people loving me for what I had, not who I was. She didn't speak. He continued. Even the woman I was going to marry, she made fun of the way I spoke. Behind my back. Uju looked at him slowly. You stammer. Sometimes. When I'm nervous. Or angry. I fought it all my life. She nodded. My little brother used to stammer. Kids made fun of him. So I taught him how to clap every time he got stuck. It made the stammer stop eventually. Cheka smiled. You really are a miracle. She smirked. Don't start. But something had shifted between them. A soft space. A quiet understanding. The next day, a loud argument broke out near the pepper sellers. 2 men shouting over stolen money. People gathered. One man pushed the other into a table, knocking down a bowl of tomatoes. Uju sighed. Every week, drama. Cheka leaned closer. Should we go see? No. I've seen enough market fights to last a lifetime. But she stepped out anyway, curious. As they watched from a distance, a small boy ran past and snatched one of Uju's meat pies. She turned sharply. Hey, come back here. Cheka took off running. He chased the boy down 3 turns and caught him near a gutter. The boy froze. I'm sorry, he shouted. I was hungry. Cheka looked at him. Skinny, dusty, no slippers. He knelt beside him. Next time, ask. Don't steal. The boy nodded fast. Cheka gave him the meat pie back. Here, eat. The boy grabbed it and ran off. When Cheka returned, Uju was standing there, arms folded. You didn't beat him. No. You let him go. Yes. She stared at him. You're strange, ice cream man. I just hate to see people suffer. She whispered, so do I. That night, Cheka sat on the small bench behind his kiosk. The stars were bright. The air was cool. And for the first time in a long time, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Joy. Not from money. Not from fame. But from her. From dough and flour. From laughter and heat. From the fire in her eyes and the softness in her heart. He smiled to himself. And whispered one word into the night. Uju. The next morning started like every other. The sun came up slowly over Yaba. Market women shouted prices. Boys ran around selling sachet water. Music played from small radios. And Cheka arrived at his usual spot with his cooler, ready to see her. But something felt different. Uju wasn't there. Her table was empty. No meat pies. No sound of her voice. No smell of pepper and flour. Cheka looked around. He asked the woman at the next stall, Where is Uju? The woman shook her head. She hasn't come since yesterday. Cheka felt his chest tighten. Did something happen? I don't know. Maybe she's sick. He packed his cooler slowly that day. His hands moved, but his mind was somewhere else. His thoughts kept going back to her, her laugh, her fire, the way she stood up for hungry strangers. Why would she just disappear like that? 3 days passed. Still no sign of Uju. The 4th day, Cheka stood at her usual corner and waited. People passed him. They asked if he knew what happened to her. He didn't have answers. Tunde came to the market in disguise and stood beside him. You've not been sleeping, Tunde said. I can't, Cheka replied. She found out something, didn't she? Cheka nodded. She saw the car. She knows I'm hiding something. And she left because of that. Cheka's voice was low. Maybe she thinks I'm like the others. Playing games. Lying for fun. Tunde sighed. Are you going to tell her the truth? Cheka looked away. I want to. But what if it ends everything? Tunde said softly, then maybe it was never real. Later that day, as Cheka was about to leave, he saw a small boy running through the market. It was the same boy who had once stolen a pie. Cheka called him. Come here. The boy stopped. Do you know Uju? The meat pie seller. The boy nodded. Yes, Ogre. Do you know where she lives? The boy scratched his head. I can show you. Cheka gave him 200 naira. Take me there. They walked through dirty back streets, past broken houses and narrow gutters. After 10 minutes, the boy stopped in front of a small yellow building with cracked walls. She stays there. Upstairs. Cheka walked up the steps slowly. He knocked once. No answer. He knocked again. Still nothing. He was about to turn away when the door opened. And there she was. Uju. But she looked different. Her scarf was missing. Her eyes were swollen like she had cried. Her lips were dry. She didn't smile. She just stared at him. Cheka didn't speak right away. She stepped outside and closed the door behind her. You shouldn't be here, she said softly. I had to see you. Why? You disappeared. You lied. Cheka felt a sharp pain in his chest. I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you everything. That's the same thing, she said. He stepped closer. Please, let me explain. She crossed her arms. Explain what? That you're not who you said you were. I never said I was poor. You never said you were rich. He looked down. I wanted to see the world from outside the glass. I wanted to breathe without bodyguards and business deals. I wanted to meet someone who didn't see me as a walking bank. Uju's voice was shaking. So you picked me? No, he said quietly. I found you. She looked away. You came into my life with secrets. You stood by me every day, helped me mix flour, served pies to children, and all the while, you were pretending. I wasn't pretending, he said. I was living. She wiped her eyes quickly. So what happens now? Are you done playing market man? Cheka stepped forward. No, I'm not done. I'm here because I care. Not about your pies. Not about the market. About you. Her lips trembled. How do I know this isn't just another game to you? He reached into his pocket and pulled out something. Not a ring. A burnt oven knob. The one that always came off when Uju twisted her old baking oven. I fixed it, he said softly. I bought the parts and fixed it. So your pies won't burn again. Uju stared at the knob. Her chest rose and fell. She slowly took it from him. Why would you do that? Because you're the only person who ever fed me without asking for anything. And I want to give you something back. Her eyes filled with tears again, but she blinked them away. I don't want money. I'm not offering money, he whispered. I'm offering truth. That night, Uju sat beside him on a low wooden bench outside her house. The moon was out. The street was quiet. She said, I didn't leave because I was angry. Cheka looked at her. She continued, I left because I was scared. Of what? Of feeling something for a man I didn't fully know. He nodded slowly. And now? She turned to him. Now I know who you are, and I'm still scared. Cheka smiled gently. I'm scared too. Why? Because you're the only person who's ever looked at me and seen more than money. They sat in silence. Then she said, you know, you talk too much for an ice cream seller. He laughed. Maybe I should switch to pies. She smiled. A real smile this time. The next morning, they walked into the market together. Hand in hand. Heads turned. People whispered. But they didn't care. They set up their stalls beside each other again. She gave him her apron. He gave her a spoon. They worked like they always did. Like nothing had changed. But everything had. For 2 weeks, everything felt almost perfect. Cheka and Uju opened their stalls early every day. They worked side by side, laughing more than they spoke. She taught him how to knead dough properly. He taught her how to count sales and write everything down. He brought her a notebook. She called it the Book of Small Dreams. At night, they would sit on a bench outside her building, talking about everything. One night, she said, if I ever own a shop, I'll paint it yellow. Bright yellow, like morning sun. So when people pass, they smile. Cheka smiled. What will you name it? She thought for a while. Uju's oven. No, Cheka said. Too small. You're more than an oven. She looked at him. What do you mean? I mean you feed people's stomachs and their hearts. She laughed. Now you're sounding like a poet. He leaned back. Maybe the market is my school now. But life doesn't stay calm forever. One afternoon, the sky changed. Clouds rolled in. Wind picked up. The air became heavy. Uju looked up. Rain's coming. Cheka grabbed the umbrella and started covering his cooler. Uju rushed to wrap her pies. Then came the first drop. Then a second. Then it poured like the heavens had opened everything at once. Shouts filled the market. People ran for shelter. Buckets rolled. Bread flew. Bags dropped. Uju's stall was not under any roof. In minutes, water soaked her entire table. Her pies became soggy. Her flour turned to mush. Her charcoal fire died. Checker tried to help cover everything, but the umbrella broke in the wind. His cooler slipped from his hands and spilled on the ground. "Uju, move your tray," he shouted. She was already on her knees, trying to save what she could. Water kept falling. Loud. Angry. The street became a river. Her tray floated a few inches before it tipped. Everything fell. The pies were gone. By the time the rain stopped, the market looked like a battlefield. Uju stood still, her clothes soaked, her hair dripping. She didn't speak. She just stared at the empty space where her tray had been. Checker walked over slowly. "Are you okay?" She didn't answer. "Uju." Still nothing. He placed a hand on her shoulder. She brushed it off. "Leave me. I just want to." "I said leave me." Checker stepped back. "It's not your fault." "No," she said, her voice shaking. "I had only 15 pies left to sell today. That's my money for tomorrow's flour. My money for rent. My money to feed myself. Now everything is water. I'll help you." She turned sharply. "How? With what? More lies? More secrets?" He felt the sting. She stepped closer. "You walk into this market with clean clothes and soft hands. You play poor for fun. But me? This is my life. Every naira matters." "I know." "No, you don't," she shouted. "You don't know what it feels like to pray every night that it doesn't rain on your business. You don't know what it means to beg your own stomach to stay quiet." Her voice cracked. "You don't know, Checker. You don't." He looked down, and then he said, "You're right. I don't know your pain, but I want to help carry it." Tears filled her eyes. "I didn't ask you to. But I want to." She shook her head. "I don't need pity. It's not pity. It's love." Her face froze. The silence between them became loud. Then she whispered, "Don't say that. It's true." She turned away. "You should go. Uju. Please." And for the first time since he met her, Checker walked away without her looking back. That night, he couldn't sleep. He kept replaying her words. "You play poor for fun. This is my life." He sat on the floor of the small room he still rented in the back street. The air was damp. A rat ran across the wall. But his heart was heavier than the room. He pulled out his phone and called Tunde. "I need you to send money to someone," Checker said. Tunde sounded worried. "Sir, are you sure? You told me not to interfere. Just do it. Quietly." "How much?" Checker hesitated. "Enough to replace everything she lost. And fix her oven. And pay 2 months of her rent." Tunde sighed. "She'll know it came from you." "I don't care." The next day, Uju didn't come to the market. Nor the next. Checker waited. On the third day, he walked back to her house. She opened the door. Slowly. Her eyes were red. She had been crying again. He held up a small brown envelope. "Someone gave me this for you." She didn't take it. "What's inside?" "Help." "From who?" He looked into her eyes. "From someone who sees you. Who believes in you. Who knows you're stronger than this storm." Her voice was low. "Why do you keep doing this?" "Because you don't see what I see." She stepped back. "What do you see?" "A woman who holds the world together with flour and fire." Uju swallowed hard. "I don't want your money," she said. "It's not mine anymore." "Then whose is it?" He stepped closer. "Yours. I didn't ask for it." "I know." She finally took the envelope, but her hands were shaking. Later that week, she returned to the market. Her stall looked new. The tray was replaced. Her pies were back. Fresh. Golden. Smelling like healing. But she didn't look at him. Not once. Checker stood beside his cooler, scooping ice cream for kids. He wanted to speak, but her wall was up again. By noon, he couldn't take it anymore. He walked to her. "Are you still angry?" She looked up. "I'm not angry. Then what? I'm trying to understand you. I'm standing right here. That's the problem, she said. I don't know where you stand. One day you're beside me. The next, you're sending envelopes. I don't know what's real. He stepped closer. This is real. She looked into his eyes. Then stop hiding, she whispered. That night, under the soft light of a broken street lamp, Checker sat her down. And he told her everything. His real name, his real house, his real pain, how he ran from wealth to find peace, how she was the first person who made him forget the mansion, how she made him feel like a man, not a bank. She sat quietly, listening, not judging. When he finished, she asked, "Why me?" He smiled. "Because you didn't care who I was. You cared about how I acted." She sighed deeply. "I've been hurt before. I know. And I don't trust easily. I don't expect you to." She looked at him. Long. Deep. Then she said, "If you lie to me again, I'll break your cooler." He laughed. She didn't. "I'm serious," she added. "I know," he said. "That's why I'm never lying again." Since the night Checker told Uju the truth, something had changed between them. Not in a loud or dramatic way. It was quiet, gentle, like fresh wind after heavy rain. The walls between them had started to fall. Slowly, not all at once, but enough for Checker to breathe again. Uju didn't smile as much as before, but she no longer looked at him with doubt in her eyes. She started asking questions. Real ones. "What was your house like?" "Big," Checker answered. "Too big. Quiet." "You had staff?" "Yes. Cooks, cleaners, drivers, even a dog trainer. But no real friends." She nodded. "I understand now why you came here." Checker smiled. "I came here for peace. But I found fire." She raised a brow. "Fire? You?" She hit him with a meat pie spoon. Each day, they grew closer. Checker stopped pretending to be an ice cream man and started helping Uju full-time. He wore her second apron. He took orders. He even learned how to fold the edges of the pies with style. "Not bad," Uju said once, examining his work. "You see." Checker grinned. "I can leave the cooler life behind." She laughed. "Don't rush. One more bad fold, and I'm demoting you to pure water seller." They were becoming a team. A real one. Everyone in the market noticed. People whispered things like "they look good together," or "see love in the middle of flower." Uju pretended not to care, but Checker saw her blush sometimes when they called him her husband. One afternoon, as they were packing up, he asked quietly, "Would you ever marry someone like me?" She blinked. "Why are you asking that?" "Because I've never felt this way before." Uju looked away. "I've been alone for so long. I don't even know what it means to trust someone completely." He nodded. "Then let me earn it. Every day." A week later, he brought her to a small rented kitchen space just outside Yaba. The place was simple. Tiled floors, clean counters, a working oven, and a sink that didn't leak. Uju walked in slowly, her eyes wide. "What is this?" "It's yours," Checker said. "For as long as you want it." She turned to him. "You did this." "I used your book," he said, pulling out the little notebook she had filled with sketches and numbers. "You wrote everything here. Size, budget, dream colors. You actually read it." "I memorized it." She covered her face with her flour-stained hands. "Checker. No rent for now. The landlord is a friend. He agreed to wait." "Why are you doing this?" "Because I believe in you." Her voice shook. "No one's ever done something like this for me." He touched her hand gently. "Then let me be the first." That evening, she baked from the new kitchen. Checker sat on a stool by the door, watching her move with joy in her step and confidence in her hands. She didn't talk much. She just worked. Focused. Calm. When the first batch came out of the oven, she called him over. "Here, taste it." He took a bite. His eyes widened. This is not pie. This is heaven. Uju laughed. He took another bite. Marry me. She froze. The room went quiet. Cheka looked up, mouth still full. I mean it. She blinked. You're joking. No. You didn't even kneel. He dropped the pie, stood, and knelt right there in the kitchen. No ring, just flour on his trousers. Uju, he said, his voice clear, no stammer this time. I don't have a ring. I don't have fancy words. I don't even know what comes next. But I know I want to build it with you. One pie at a time. One day at a time. Will you marry me? Her mouth opened. No words came out. She backed up a step. Cheka. I'm not rushing you. You can say no. But I had to ask. She looked at him. This man who left everything to sell ice cream, who helped her when her oven died, who didn't run when she shouted, and who stood in the rain to protect her meat pies. She shook her head slowly. You're unbelievable. I try. You kneel with no ring. I'll bring meat pies to the wedding. She covered her face, smiling. You're not normal. He grinned. Is that a yes? She didn't answer. But she didn't say no either. She walked to him, pulled him to his feet, and hugged him tight. That was enough for now. But not everyone was happy. Elsewhere in the city, a woman sat in a lounge chair by a swimming pool, scrolling through her phone. Linda. Her face was tight. Her eyes cold. She had just received an email that made her blood boil. Subject: Shareholder Transfer Request, Billionaire Holdings. Cheka had quietly started removing her access to his businesses. She tossed the phone on the table and stood up. She grabbed her purse and pulled out a card. A number was written on it in bold red ink. She dialed. A man's voice answered. I'm ready, she said. For what? The voice replied. To find him. And when we do? She smiled. I'll do what I should have done before he humiliated me. Back in Yaba, Cheka and Uju had just finished cleaning the kitchen for the night. He handed her a wrapped box. Open it. She unwrapped it and gasped. It was a white apron. On it were the words, Meet and Melt, powered by Uju's fire. She looked up at him, shocked. He shrugged. You told me you wanted a name that makes people smile. Her eyes welled up. I love it, she said. Then let's open shop next week. You're serious? Yes. She hugged the apron tight to her chest. Then I'll say yes, she whispered. Cheka blinked. What? She smiled. I'll marry you. Uju had just said yes. She was standing in her small kitchen, holding the apron Cheka gave her. Her eyes were shiny, and her lips were shaking, but she was smiling. Cheka stood in front of her, frozen. He didn't speak. He didn't move. He was still holding the empty box he used to wrap the apron. What? She asked, laughing a little. You asked. I said yes. Why do you look like you've seen a ghost? Cheka blinked. You said yes. I did. You said yes. You want me to say it a third time? He dropped the box and pulled her into a tight hug. She laughed into his chest. You're going to crush me. I don't care. Then he pulled back and looked her in the eyes. Say it again. Uju shook her head. No. Please. She smiled. Yes. I will marry you, Ice Cream Man. He kissed her forehead. Then I'm the happiest man alive. The news of their engagement spread through the market like hot smoke. By morning, everybody was talking about it. I heard he proposed with meat pie. No, I heard it was in a bakery kitchen. He knelt down? In flour. True love still exists, oh. Uju rolled her eyes as she packed her pies. These people have turned my life into cinema. Cheka stood beside her, proud. Well, they're not wrong. Our love is a movie. She looked at him. If this is a movie, we need a serious director. Then I'll be the producer. You be the star. She shook her head, trying not to smile. By afternoon, customers started pouring into their joint stall. The The meet and melt idea had taken over the area. People lined up to buy Uju's hot pies and Cheka's soft scoops. Even those who used to ignore them were now calling their names. Madam Uju, I want the round one. Cheka, that your vanilla today, sweet pass yesterday. Business was booming. Every night, they sold out. Every night, they walked home with tired legs and happy hearts. But Uju couldn't stop thinking about something. She sat outside her room one evening, legs stretched out, watching people pass. Cheka came and sat beside her. Why are you quiet? She didn't answer at first. Then she said, do you think people like me and people like you can truly last? Cheka turned to face her. What do you mean? I mean, you're from another world. The rich world. Fancy shoes, private schools, people who speak with British accents. He smiled. You forgot to add boring parties and fake friends. She gave him a small smile, but her eyes stayed serious. I'm just a meat pie seller. You chose me now. But what about later, when the newness wears off? Cheka took her hand. Uju, listen to me. I didn't fall in love with your job. I fell in love with your heart. Your strength. Your fire. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. She looked down. It still scares me. Then let me keep showing you. Every day. She nodded slowly. Okay. One morning, Cheka got a call while they were rolling dough together. He stepped outside to answer. It was his mother. Cheka, is it true? Her voice cracked over the phone. Are you really selling ice cream in the market? Cheka held the phone away from his ear for a second. Mummy, who told you? Does it matter? Are you okay? I'm fine. You're engaged to she lowered her voice, a meat pie girl. Yes. There was silence. Have you lost your mind? No. I found my heart. You think this girl loves you? Wait until she enters the house. You'll see. All she wants is the money. No, Mum. All she wants is peace. Same as me. She sighed deeply. Come back home. We'll find you a proper girl. I've found her already. Cheka ended the call. He went back inside and tried to smile. But Uju noticed his face. What happened? Nothing serious. Family. He nodded. She stayed quiet. He walked over and kissed her cheek. Don't worry. I'm not going anywhere. That night, Uju sat with her neighbor, Auntie Efima, an older woman who sold ogbono beside her stall. You know, Auntie Efima said, when love comes fast, it can leave fast. Uju was quiet. I'm not saying he's bad. But people with money, they have options. One small fight, they disappear. Uju shook her head. Cheka is not like that. I hope so. But you need to be wise. Love is not only about feelings. It's about foundation. What do you mean? Does he respect your people? Has he sat with your family? Has he seen your real life? Or just the pretty market version? Uju thought about it. No, he hasn't met them yet. Auntie Efima nodded. Then do that first. Before you say I do. The next morning, Uju told Cheka, you're coming with me to see my uncle. Cheka blinked. Your uncle? Yes. My parents are gone. He's the only family I have. Cheka looked nervous. Do you think he'll like me? Uju folded her arms. I don't care if he likes you. I just want him to meet you before I make this real. Cheka smiled. Then let's go. They traveled to Icecream, where Uju's uncle lived in a small house with a red zinc roof. The old man came out wearing a wrapper and a singlet. His beard was grey and his eyes were sharp. He looked at Cheka from head to toe. So you are the rich boy? Cheka bowed a little. Yes, sir. You left your mansion to sell ice cream? Yes, sir. The man stared at him. Are you mad? Cheka smiled. Maybe a little. The old man laughed loudly. At least you're honest. They sat together under a mango tree. Uju served them soft drinks. Her uncle asked Cheka many questions. About his life, his family, his intentions. Cheka answered each one calmly. At the end, the old man said, I don't trust people who smile too much. But I trust her. If she says you are real, then that's enough for me. Uju smiled. Cheka smiled too. They had taken one more step. But back in Lagos, Linda was planning her next move. She had hired someone. A private investigator. Follow him, she said, handing over a photo. Find out who this meat pie girl is. I want everything. Where she lives, who she talks to, her past, her secrets. The man nodded. It will cost. She dropped an envelope on the table. Money is not the problem. Ruining them is. One evening, Uju and Chaka stood in front of their new bakery building. It was still under construction. The signboard had just arrived. Meat and Melt, home of love and spice. Uju stared at it, silent. You don't like it? Chika asked. No, I love it. He smiled. Say it louder. She laughed. I love it. They hugged tightly. Chaka whispered, We're really doing it, Uju. Yes, she whispered back. We are. That night, she couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, thinking about how fast things had changed. How a man she once called strange had become her heart. She stood up, walked to the window, and whispered to herself, Please let this be real. And from somewhere outside, as if the wind heard her, a voice whispered back in the dark, It is. The next morning was different. The sun came out brighter. The birds were louder. And the market felt like it had been waiting for something big. Today was the day the new shop would open. The yellow paint on the wall still smelled fresh. The signboard above the door shone under the sky. Meat and Melt, home of love and spice. Inside, the oven was hot. The pies were warm. The glass display was full. And standing behind the counter was Uju, dressed in her clean white apron, her scarf tied neatly, and her face glowing like the sun. Cheka stood beside her, wearing a matching apron, holding a scoop spoon like a king holding a crown. They both looked at each other. Ready? Chika asked. Uju took a deep breath. I think so. He opened the door. People were already waiting. The crowd came in fast. Customers, friends, other sellers from the market, even old aunties who never liked standing in line. Uju, I want 2 pies. Chaka, give me extra scoop. The shop filled with laughter, heat, and the smell of sweet and spicy meat. They worked side by side, just like always. But now, it was different. Now, it was theirs. Later that evening, after the last customer left and the shop was quiet, Uju sat on a stool and took off her apron. She looked around. We did it, she said. Cheka leaned on the counter. We did. You know, I didn't think we would get here. I knew, he said. She smiled. You're too confident. No, I'm just proud of you. She looked at him softly. Thank you, for believing in me, for fighting for this, for fighting for us. He came closer, held her hand. I didn't fight alone. You pulled me through the fire. She rested her head on his chest. Then maybe we're both fire. He laughed. Fire and ice. Meat and Melt. They both smiled. But across town, in a black car parked on a quiet street, a man stepped out holding a folder. He walked into a building, went up the stairs, and knocked on a door. Linda opened it. He handed her the folder. It's all there, he said. The girl. The bakery. Her address. Her past. Linda opened it quickly. She looked through the photos. Pages of details. Background. School. Uncle's house. Shop rent. Neighbors' gossip. Everything. She smiled. I want to meet her, Linda said. But not as myself. The man looked confused. As who? As a customer. The next day, Uju stood behind the counter again. Chaka had gone to restock vanilla mix. She was alone in the shop. A beautiful woman in dark glasses walked in. She wore a long dress and held a tiny purse. Uju smiled. Good afternoon. Welcome to Meet and Melt. The woman smiled back. I've heard so much about your pies. Would you like to try one? Please. Uju handed her a hot pie. This one just came out of the oven. The woman took a bite. She chewed slowly, thoughtfully. Then she said, delicious. I see why people love it here. Thank you. The woman leaned on the counter. And you made all this by yourself? Uju nodded. Well, not by myself. My partner and I, we built it together. Your partner? My fiancé. The woman smiled wider. What's his name? Cheka. The woman's eyes twitched behind her glasses. Interesting name. Uju frowned slightly. Do you know him? No, the woman said quickly. I just like the sound of it. She dropped money on the table. Keep the change. Then she walked out. Uju watched her leave, her heart beating a little faster. Something felt strange. That night, Cheka returned from his trip. He brought extra baking pans and a new scooper. Business is growing, he said. But Uju was quiet. What's wrong? He asked. Someone came today. Who? A woman. Dressed nicely. Dark glasses. She asked about you. Cheka's smile faded. What did she say? She just said your name was interesting. He looked away. Uju touched his arm. Cheka, who was she? He took a breath. I think it's Linda. Uju stepped back. Your ex? He nodded. She must have found us. Why would she come here? To scare us. Or destroy what we built. Uju crossed her arms. Is she dangerous? No, he said slowly. But she's angry. And when she's angry, she doesn't think. Uju looked him in the eyes. Do you still love her? He shook his head. Never. You're my home now. She searched his face. Then she nodded. Then we fight together. The next morning, Linda returned. But this time, she didn't come in. She stood outside, watching. Watching Uju serve customers. Watching Cheka wipe the glass counter. Watching them smile. Her jaw tightened. Then she dropped the folder in a nearby bin and walked away. 2 weeks later, Cheka's mother came to visit. She walked into the shop with her handbag swinging, head high. People whispered, "That's his mother." Uju stood frozen. Cheka rushed to the front. "Mum." His mother looked around. "This place smells. Okay." Cheka frowned. "Say what you came to say." She looked at Uju. "Come here." Uju walked over slowly. The older woman stared at her for a long time. Then she said, "Do you love him?" Uju's voice was steady. "Yes, Ma." "Do you know what it means to stand beside a man like him?" "Yes, Ma." "Do you know how to protect a name that people want to destroy?" Uju nodded. With both hands. Cheka's mother looked at her one more time. Then she said, "Then take care of him." Uju's eyes widened. Cheka's eyes widened. The older woman turned to her son. "You always do things your own way. But this time, maybe you chose well." Cheka grabbed Uju's hand. They both smiled. 1 week later, Cheka and Uju stood under a big white canopy in a small park behind the bakery. There was no golden hall. No chandeliers. No long guest list. Just chairs, music, flowers from the market women, and meat pies in every guest's hand. They were getting married. Cheka wore a cream-colored native outfit. Uju wore a simple white dress with flour still on her cheek from that morning. The officiator smiled. "Do you, Cheka Obifuna, take Ujunwa Ease to be your wife?" Cheka looked into her eyes. "I do." "Do you, Ujunwa Ease, take Cheka Obifuna to be your husband?" Uju smiled back. "I do." The crowd clapped. The market people shouted. And Cheka kissed his bride. Later that night, after the music stopped and the guests left, they sat alone in front of their shop. Just the two of them. Cheka held her hand. Uju leaned on his shoulder. "This started with a scoop and a pie," she whispered. He smiled. Now it's a lifetime. She looked up. Are you happy? He nodded. I've never been happier. She whispered, me too. They stayed like that, quiet, full, thankful. And behind them, the yellow building stood tall. Meet and melt. Built with love. Built with truth. Built by a man who came to find peace. And the woman who gave it to him.